Hello and welcome to the G3 Pulse podcast. Today, I'm delighted to have Simon Dorsen on the podcast. We're going to be talking about cashless gaming and the digitalisation of gaming across really Europe. I don't know if we're going to step any further afield than that. But Simon, you've been with OKTO for now a couple of years, haven't you?
It's coming up on 3 years.
3 years, 3 years. Okay. And I don't think there's any need for us to actually run through exactly what OKTO does. I mean, you're pretty established now. We've done a couple of podcasts in the past in which we've gone through the product and the app and how it actually works. So if anyone needs to do that, they can go to the website and have a look. And we'll leave links below so that people can do that as well. What I'm interested in at the moment is really what you've been doing for this last 2-year period at least, specifically in lockdown, and looking really because obviously traditional customers, they've been forced to engage with operators online because of the COVID lockdowns. And I was wondering, has this provided land-based operators the opportunity to, if this is the right word, digitalize their customer? And what other opportunities does it provide as well? And I'm thinking, is it just digital payments that's enabling digitalization, or is there more to it than that?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show.
Very welcome.
Big fan, so I'm really happy to be here. I think that digitalization is much more is much bigger than just payments and OKTO. I mean,
Okay.
uh, I think that COVID gave a very unusual pause for businesses to take stock and to think, okay, this is how I've been operating my business. How can I optimize that business and how can I challenge that business of the way it operates that I've never really had the time to do before?
Okay.
So, and how can what can I do to protect my business going forward now that I have that time to think about it? So I think a lot of operators that I spoke to and I've seen have gone through that process. So I was at the World Gaming Executive Summit in Barcelona last year, and these very points, there was a range of operators up on stage, and they were all talking about this: how they reduced machines, how they brought in new machines, how they changed operational procedures, how they, where did they need to bring new technology in they didn't bring new technology in across the board, but where did they need to specifically bring new technology in? And I think that's where cashless is. So we're part of that. So I think there's been a real optimization by operators in digitalization in general.
Okay.
And they've sped up that. So as part of that, obviously they've considered that, and then you've got the players, or the, as we call them, the users, who have also kind of gone through that evolution in that 2-year period. So you've had these two forces coming together, and payments is part of that, where both of them have recognized the user and the player and the operator that this is something that is here and now. And because those operators have been digitizing, there's the connectivity and the platform to be able to rest digital payments on top of.
Okay. And so, I mean, that convergence that a lot of the kind of land-based and online we're seeing in terms of online payments and the convergence of land-based kind of custom, is that creating a hybrid between the two in terms of the way that digital customers interact with the kind of physical customers at the same time?
Well, yes, I would say I would preface that by saying I don't think the customer base is not homogenous, right?
Okay.
It never has, and I don't think it's going to be into the future. Obviously, let's say traditionally you had your online player and you had your land-based player, and then there's where those two converge. I think that is definitely growing, where you've got a player who is online and retail as well. And I think that the pandemic has accelerated that, because when people couldn't play in retail, they went online, and now they're doing both.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously you've got your online. You have people who may still choose to just be online, and people who will still choose to be retail. But I think the convergence in the middle is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and players will want that. Be able to, from a payment point of view, move money between the two. And I also think that operators are going to want to bring the two together because it optimizes the experience. And I
Right.
think that retail is getting a more exciting experience, and all the operators I know are investing more in their retail to really make it compete with online and be up to the minute. So yeah.
And are digital payments the kind of transition point for that? Is it the jumping off point for operators to kind of think about that, better customer experience on and offline, and also, manage to adhere to the regulations that are out there and the kind of security measures in terms of protections of players at the same time? Is that where operators need to think about digital payments first before they consider everything else?
Well, I think it's kind of an obvious point, right? Because you can't put a bet on, or you can't play a game without,
Yeah.
having the money to do it. So, I think it does make sense, and of course I would advocate. It doesn't always happen that way, but I would advocate that. I think that you think about the payments as part of your strategy, and there's a clear strategy on that as an operator. So I think it absolutely makes sense, and that you've got the technology there to support digital payments
Okay.
across the board. So to make that is an experience thing as well. Payments is habitual, and payments is about experience. So it's not just saying, oh, I'll have digital payments. You need to make sure that that experience is good for the customer, and the customer sees value in using this. Coming to your point about the convergence of regulations,
Yeah.
I think that there's many regulations converging at the same time, and many trends converging at the same time. You've got increased scrutiny by the gaming regulators. You've got increased scrutiny by the financial regulators
Yeah.
on AML, but also the gaming regulators wanting to look at AML as well. You've got understanding the player, player protection. So you've got all of these things, and it makes sense, I think, that since the payment is core to that, it makes sense that is a converging point, and where you can bring all of this together in a very efficient and elegant way.
Yeah.
That's what I believe, and I think it's important for it to be elegant, because you can bring them together in a very haphazard way. That's a terrible experience, but you can also bring them together in a very elegant way that a lot of stuff is done behind the scenes, under the hood, yet achieves what all the regulators want, what the operators want, of
Okay.
de-risking themselves. Because there's a big point. I speak to a lot of operators, and they're really thinking about digital payments about de-risking themselves as well.
So what do you mean by that? What's de-risking?
Well, I think it was a very interesting development that happened about 6 weeks or 7 weeks after the last major lockdown.
Okay.
That I take the UK as an example, that a lot of the high street, if not all of the high street, had gone digital. So all of the shops either massively reduced taking cash or stopped it
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the gaming locations suddenly realized, hang on a second, we're the last we're the last bastions on the high street managing cash and
Yeah.
large sums of it. So we become a potential target for criminalization. So
Okay.
they started this kind of light bulb went off, and they were like, hang on a second, we need to have a strategy about this, and we need to think about this and take measures to manage this.
Okay.
So there's kind of been, there's different aspects to this that come around. Plus also that cash is becoming more expensive.
Yeah.
Cash is, and this is a lot of hidden cost that, some people think cash is free. It is absolutely not free. And it's getting more and more expensive to move around, to manage, and things like that. So I think that operators are becoming more savvy in understanding this, and understanding really how digital payments can answer many challenges and efficiencies that they're looking to that may at the beginning seem unconnected,
Okay.
but actually are connected.
Well, coming off the point that you're making there, and I'll move away from the UK in a moment, but we've got a gambling review coming up in May, and at this time, in terms of safer gambling tools that are available, operators have self-exclusion. You've got the banks that can affect gambling blocks, and suppliers have analysis tools and their own safeguards. I just wonder, do you think these all these elements are integrating and working together as effectively as they might do? And is there enough communication between payment processors, banks, and operators? And if not, what can we do about it?
I think that all of the actors involved that you mentioned are taking the steps that they can.
Okay.
Okay, but it's an ecosystem. There's not just there's many players, and so it's always hard to have a kind of universal solution there. I think that's where someone like OKTO comes in, where we are the gateway into the end point, being the gaming merchants. So we bring in all of those different payment methods or institutions and stuff like that, and we can cap them off and of course take advantage from any of the let's say institutional broad-based policies that they have,
Okay.
but also we can fill any gaps as well. And I think that the other thing is that in retail you have a lot of uh, anonymous players and stuff like that. So we also onboard those players for the operator and help transition the operator to not necessarily understanding the specific player, but at least having the understanding who are playing in their locations, and that there can be red flags or there can be steps taken if that player takes a step in the wrong direction. Also, we
Okay.
have our own limits within our platforms and portfolio. So it's not an open tap,
Okay.
right? I think that's
Which
the
is what
key. I
which is
think
what
that's
was the worry. The government's had that worry, didn't they, that this was just going to kind of bleed out rather than actually set limits.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important point to point is that certainly from us being a regulated entity, we have to we have to understand exactly the players that are using our technology and interacting with our merchants, and there are limits there based on the information that player gives to us. So we operate under the same AML directives that the operators operate under, or anybody else in the economy operates under. So we take those same steps, and there are limits put in place, according to that information. We're constantly doing analysis of the transactions that happen on our platforms to
Okay.
see if there's any strange activity, suspected fraud activity, because we also have to answer to our financial regulator as well,
Right.
and
Okay.
they do audits and things like that. So it's there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people might not realize, but once you understand what's going on behind the scenes, it's incredibly reassuring,
Right.
and that there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of protection there already.
Okay.
So yeah.
I want to get onto specific cases in terms of the installs that you've been doing, but before that, I just wonder: is there a generalization in terms of the best practices that you've been doing in transitioning players to digital payments when you work with an operator, in terms of the education, the adoption? Is it an all-in-one kind of you hit the button and everyone's digital, or is it a kind of a piecemeal rollout? And what's the in practice thing, Simon?
Yeah, it's great. Let's move on. No, look, we're dealing with, as I said before, in one of the other questions, the players are not homogenous, right?
Right.
So you've got different, as with any technology within the economy, you have early adopters, you have people laggards, you have people at different stages
Okay.
of what they're doing. So um, I'll give you an example. When we first went live in the UK in the pubs, it was just after the lockdown. You know, the pubs were getting back up on their feet and operations. The last thing that the pub manager was worried about was OKTO. He wanted to get his pub running correctly.
Yeah.
So we had little to no marketing except for information on the top screen of the game machines,
Okay.
and yet from day one, we started rolling and players started coming
Okay.
because there were players that this appealed to immediately, and they were
Yeah.
like, that this is something I like, and I get it immediately, and I want to use that, and
Okay.
we have been rolling since then. That is a portion of the players, and that will be different in different countries and in different operators. I think the main thing, to be more generalistic in it though, is that the players have to understand that it is available, how they get it in their hands, and what is the value to them. So, and that is a concerted effort between us and the operators on marketing material, making sure that their staff are informed about, advising the players and things like that. So, and also there's digital marketing as well.
Okay.
Maybe CRM information, mail outs and stuff like that. So, just with any product launch that someone would do in any business or specifically in gaming, there are ways that you go about communicating that to the customer base, and you know of course digital payments have their specificities, but in the sense it's a new service and people need to first understand about it, and what are the benefits to them. So
Okay.
I don't see anything kind of abnormal in that. There's nothing particularly scary. It's about launching a new service or a new product in your location, and you know they go about it the way they operators know very well how to do that, and we slot in with that.
Okay, I had kind of one more general kind of question before going into specifics about the operators that you've dealt with. We've seen a lot of street operations switch in the last, particularly in the last 6 months, to OKTO. I just want to, obviously, our audience is kind of we have casinos and sports betting, but specifically for the casino landscape, is it? I know from your background in the past as well, Simon. Is it very different for casino from street and arcade? And is it going to take longer for it for for OKTO to break into there, or you're already breaking into there? It's just we're not hearing about the rollouts that they're coming.
I think it's a bit of all of the above. I
Okay.
think that so our ambition as a company is to be the ubiquitous payment method in a country across all of the gaming sectors.
Okay.
So you know, there was some low hanging fruit there, and there are others that just took have taken different time to, as we've grown our team as well. We're a smaller company, and
Yeah.
time it just takes time to go out and see everybody. But I wanted to use an analogy to answer this question, and that is a telecoms analogy that in kind of first world countries we had we had the landline telephone, and then we went to mobile, whereas in developing countries they went directly from no phone line directly to mobile,
Yeah.
and I think this is an analogy that I think suits this discussion well, because I think that in a lot of those streets operations they don't have TITO yet, or they don't have other cashless systems,
Yeah.
or their machines were an old technology, so they
Yeah.
didn't really they don't have the technology in place. So instead of kind of taking, let's say, other steps that casinos have taken in between, they've just gone directly to the cashless technology and skipped out in the middle.
Yeah.
Whereas casinos, because of their very nature, as you know,
Mm.
you know, that technology came has been around, and they've had different forms of cashless in their locations for some time now. So, you know, you know, there are different approaches. You know, our solution or digital payments are just as relevant in both,
Yep.
but there's different technologies there. There's different, slightly different considerations. I think that's the analogy that I would use. But I would also say that there are announcements coming soon,
Okay.
and that we are absolutely breaking into to the casino sector, and sports betting sector. And some of them simply it's about getting in the development roadmaps with the different technology partners there that sometimes
Okay.
take longer. So yeah, it's a varied answer.
Right. No,
Yeah,
no. Okay. Yeah. Watch this space type answer. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that hasn't been, and one of the things that have been very kind of very acutely obvious from the announcements that have been made is that, we've seen so many agreements with OKTO sign up in Spain. At the street level with Kadir, Unidesa, Forward Systems, is it Technausa? Or is that, am I saying that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wonder why have you been so popular in Spain?
Well, I think, as you mentioned, that they have a really big street market there, and I think, and Tito, as I mentioned before, wasn't hasn't been there because of different technology reasons, stuff like that. So I think they fall into that bucket of kind of avoiding the landline,
Okay.
and but also there's been a big desire by the operators to digitize their estates, and also pave the way for not obviously in on day one, but over time, removing cash from their operations,
Okay.
because of the things I mentioned before. Now, I want to preface that by saying that I think it's really important to say that cashless is not an either or. I'm not advocating uh, going 100% cashless and getting rid of cash from one day to the next. That's just not realistic, and I wouldn't advocate that. When it comes into the retail space, we're an alternative payment method.
Okay.
Cash being the ultimate, like debit cards are in online. So we're not so there. There is going to be, over the next period of time, however long that is, and it will be different in different countries. There's going to be a period of time where cash and cashless operate together, and it's choice for the customer. And you support both of your customers, but I think there are operational benefits that come about through cashless for the operator, and also you're appealing to a younger or different, or just a type of customer who now prefers to use digital payments.
Okay.
So yeah.
You went live with Recreativos Martin as well,
Yep.
again in Spain. And I was just wondering, with so many installations with Spanish operators, is the offer one and the same for everybody, or is the do you offer a different slightly different product from operator to operator? Is it the same kind of Okta Wallet solution? Is there any kind of making the product unique for one operator? Are they asking for that, or is it the same? And does it even make sense to do different ones from a user perspective, where better to have a universal app that does everything for them?
Well, when it comes to the app, our philosophy has been to have, at least at the beginning, is been to have a universal app that a user can use in multiple locations. We think
Okay.
that's good for the user. And coming back to one of the other points about adoption of users, it, that's what's going to make that's what makes cashless fly if it's adopted by the user. So it's extremely important, and I can't emphasize this enough. It's extremely important that the experience is great for the user, so that they want to use it and love using it.
Okay.
So because if they, for whatever reason, decide not to use a digital payment method, then we've all wasted our time. So it's really important for that. So that's why we've taken that approach. At the currently in the operators we're live in Spain and in the UK, and we're going to be going live in Romania very soon.
Okay.
It's the same. It's the same app. It's the same experience.
Okay.
Now, that being said, OKTO is not defined just by an app. That is a part of our offering.
Yeah.
Our payment platform is really what defines us, and what that enables us to do is that we have an OKTO branded app. We can have a white label app
Okay.
if the merchant doesn't have an app, and we see that a lot. That operators don't have mobile apps, but they really want to,
Okay.
and we can, and also when we've been working with different technology partners, they've recognised that maybe that's not their competency, or cashless isn't their competency. So they've really been happy to partner with us because they jump-step that very quickly, and they
Mm.
do what they do great, and we do what we do great. So, but also, we also see a big demand for what we call embedded payments. So if there's an operator that already has an app that they've
Okay.
developed, we don't say, hey, you have to use our app. We say, okay, take our technology and we embed that technology in your app. So you've already got users who have downloaded your app, but you get
Okay.
the benefits of what we're offering as well. So there's
Okay.
a multitude of things and services that we offer as a company, and we're not just defined by the one app.
Yeah, I was just wondering, that kind of thought process where you go into a location, if it shows, I know Apple Pay is an obvious one, but you see the logo and you think, oh, I have that. If you were to go into a location and you see the OKTO logo, you think, well, I have that. I know what the situation is here. Whereas if it's an own branded one, you may think, oh, what do I have to do to log in and register and things? So I'm just wondering, from an operator perspective, should you be branding, or should you be thinking OKTO is the way to go with this?
And it can be horses for courses, right?
Okay.
So there are operators that we speak to that at the moment, or don't are very clear that they don't want to have that. They think it's an advantage to have a non-branded
Yeah.
solution,
Okay.
and the player will like that.
Mm.
That being said, though, we are looking into solutions where within our OKTO branded app we can offer pages, loyalty pages,
Okay.
and things like that the merchants we have can have a page of their own within our app. So that's an evolution of what we're doing, because promotion and loyalty we see as an important part of this whole story, coming back to the adoption that I mentioned before. But there are other operators who are adamant about it, that they want a branded app, either their own, like
Yeah.
embedded
Yeah.
finance, so you know we learned very early on it's important for us to be flexible on that. The
Okay.
great thing is that all of the technology is in house, so we are able to be flexible like that. So um, you know we don't want to be defined by our own thinking
Yeah.
and methodology. So yeah, and we see that customers really appreciate that, and also we'll see how it evolves over time. We want to give ourselves flexibility with that.
Okay. One of the announcements that interested me was that you've linked with Netherlands-based React, the management and monitoring system.
Yeah.
I just wanted, I mean, without going into gory tech details and things, just what that process of integration with an established product that they have. I just wonder, is that taking a long period of time to actually integrate, or is it just a bolt-on? Is it something that is straightforward? And can you pretty much work with any system that's out there?
Yeah. So I would say, as of date, if you include betting systems or CMSs, we've integrated with about 20 plus at the moment. It could
Okay.
be higher, but I don't track it every day, but that's the number that comes into my mind. So, and that's growing all the time. So we have a good experience of understanding the implementation. We have an API that we give to those CMSs or platforms. So, and we found that's been very well received. So I would say that, of course, this is a very general answer, but we've found that including testing and everything, this takes between 4 and 6 weeks
Okay.
for a CMS to implement. Some have done it in 2 weeks. Some have done it a bit longer than that, but
Okay.
that also has to do with their internal processes and how they organize their tech teams and stuff like that. So, but it's not nothing, but it's certainly not a big deal either. So it's something in the middle, but it's a relatively straightforward integration. That's
Okay.
the feedback we've received. So yeah.
And are there any systems out there that you kind of gone, well, too old, can't do this, or is it pretty much anything is workable?
The CMSs, not really an issue.
Okay.
It's the machines though that those CMSs connect into
Okay.
has been a question mark whether they support SaaS or other protocols that support cashless. So, but that in a relatively short space of time. So in the 3 years that I've been in OKTO, at the beginning that was, is there enough machines in the location, to these days that's really not a concern anymore. So
Right. Okay.
you know from being in the industry a while, even though that's a couple of years, that's a pretty quick period
Yeah.
for the machine base to be updated when
Yeah.
it comes to like that kind of technology. So that's really not an issue anymore. So I think in general, we're good.
Flitting back to the UK, having started the conversation there, the OXO umbrella now really includes Regal. I'm going to read from the list now. Inspired, Bob Rudd, Mercury Bingo, Mercury Slots. I mean, probably more that are in the works and in the background as well that I haven't mentioned. But what I was thinking about that is that is there a critical mass in a market that you describe, that market as in brackets converted, converted in terms of like that digitalization of the actual marketplace, and have you hit that already in Spain? Because we just talked about so many different installs, even Holland, from the React conversation, and what are the other external factors in that crossover that it's not just the OKTO solution that's driving that. There's the external part as well. But do you look at a marketplace and go, well, that's now pretty much wholly cashless?
No, I don't think we're there yet. I think that if you look at the marketplace like the UK,
Mm.
it's a very diverse gaming market. So the operators you mentioned are operating machines in pubs and bingo and AGCs. So you've got many other sectors, gaming sectors in the UK. So I think from a technology connectivity point of view of
Yeah.
the CMSs we're connected to and the machines that we can get access to, we are making great headway. There's still a lot of work going on there, and there'll be some significant announcements on that soon, to make that number even bigger. But then there's the making that a reality. So all of these operators we're working with, we're rolling out with, we're working with all the major pubs, co's in the UK, and now it's about executing the connectivity to all of the machines that we have the potential to be connected to, and also refining it. There are different factors that in one pub, for example,
Okay.
it might be a very heavily cash pub for whatever reasons around that area,
Okay.
and maybe that's not an optimal place for digital payments in general, irrespective of whether it's OKTO. But there'll be other pubs which are more optimized for it. So we're learning. We're learning all of that stuff to understand the market better, working with our merchants and optimizing that. And I think that's, payments never stand still, and OKTO certainly never stands still. We're constantly optimizing our platform, optimizing our app, and optimizing our understanding of the market, because none of this stuff is static, and certainly the users are not static, and we're always looking to innovate and improve.
Okay, well, I mean, we talked about a bunch of countries, particularly you've been very successful in very specific countries at the moment, and I just wonder how important it is to localize those payment experiences to the different geographies, and slightly going back to the other question as well, where are we at? So, if there was a percentage pie of that particular marketplace, Simon, where are we at, in terms of percentages for that digitalization of customers? Are we in the 10%, the 20%, 30%? Do you see it, tipping over, and how quickly do you think that circle will kind of change over? So, by looking at the different countries, do you see ones tipping faster, moving slower, progression going more? You like I said, we've gone through a bunch of markets so far. Where do you see that? As an overall picture, where do you see things?
As of the markets that we're in and
Yeah.
we're currently live in, I think the UK is certainly at the forefront, which is not really surprising. I mean, I think that it's well studied and understood that the UK is becoming a very, in general, cashless society. So I think UK is the leader for the markets that we're in. I think so, and I think that Spain and Romania are following behind that, and we'll see how they develop. I think we're still in as far as gaming is concerned. I still think we're in those early adopter kind of user phases,
Okay.
and we're growing with those, and those. But what we do see is that if a user uses OKTO and they like it and they become a repeat user, that becomes their payment method of choice. So
Okay.
it's very sticky. There's definitely a clear sector out there of the players that want this. That's proven and obvious.
Okay.
And then would they when they do have that chosen, they really like it, and they continue to use that, and that becomes the normal way of gaming and paying for that. So and then it's just, and then that's about then moving on to the next group of users who are closer to the adopters, and working on them with our merchants and our communications to educate them and advise them on how digital payments can help them.
And do you see the speed of adoption increasing as well? Are you seeing, as you go into a country, the actual take-up rate is actually increasing as well?
Yeah, as you can imagine, we're monitoring KPIs all the time, so always seeing transactions increase through our platform, and a key metric is new users. So
Okay.
and downloads of our app, new users that signed up that week or that month, new users that made one deposit with OKTO, two deposits, and then how do they transition into a repeat user? So all of those KPIs are growing month over month. So that's very positive.
Okay. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things that are on the horizon, a couple of things that kind of wait and watch and see. I just wondered, what does the rest of 2022 look like for you as we head into kind of this middle part of the year? Other kind of new? You mentioned Romania as a kind of a new territory. So is it really about expanding out? Is it about focusing and growing a particular market share in one particular place? What have you got on your kind of rider for this for the next couple of months, Simon?
Well, we like a challenge. I think we've put a challenge to go live in multiple countries at once, which it's an effort, and but we have clear reasons why we want to do that. We want to solidify our position in the market. So, obviously we're live in the UK, we're live in Spain. literally in the next weeks, we'll be live in Romania,
Okay.
also in Germany, Italy. We're expanding, as you mentioned, into the Netherlands.
Yep.
We're also expanding into France. So there's those are kind of cap off the major gaming markets in Europe.
Okay.
So those we want to clearly establish a foothold in, and we are doing that. Um, as I mentioned before, we can't stand still, so we're adding new payment methods, localized payment methods. To come back to your question before about,
Yeah.
is it important to localize? Absolutely, it's important to localize. So, of course, our apps are available in the local languages wherever we operate,
Okay.
and we are adding local payment methods in those markets, and that is key.
Okay.
But we're also evolving our product, as I mentioned before, adding loyalty or loyalty pages specific to merchants in our app. We've got a number of the countries where I mentioned we're going live. We're going live with white label apps, so apps
Yep.
branded under those merchants.
Okay.
What else are we doing? And we're evolving our product as well to see what else. As I mentioned, we're not defined just by an app, but what else can our platform support in us being the great thing about OKTO is as I mentioned, we've built a great last mile gateway through our partners. So there are maybe other payment methods or other payment methods we can partner with, or other ways of enabling digital payments through that gateway. And we're really trying to think of how we can use that and offer greater choice and greater innovation for our merchants. So yeah, that's what we're doing this year. It's a lot.
Okay. Only a few things.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Nice, quiet break. Can we go? Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to again getting to some shows. I'm actually meeting you for the first time, and it feels like for too long as well. So, and the same for everything else. So, I imagine you've got a busy show and conference calendar coming up as well. So, pleasure talking to you. Thank you for running through all our questions. I know we kind of traveled all over the European map, but very interesting to find out what you're doing, what you'll be doing next, but also what you kind of concluding now. And yeah, I'll see you very soon.
Thanks, Lewis. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Cheers.